G'day folks, Chris McLean back with yet another episode, and in the studio today I've got Joel from KarmaJack, and they believe that digital marketing should never feel like gambling because investing in your business is scary enough, and because of that KarmaJack have developed a system that works, and their big secret is that they never guess, they just follow the data. Excited to get into all things digital marketing, data, following the data trail. Joel, thanks so much for swinging by, mate.
What up? Thanks for having me.
Thank you, mate. Pleasure. Thanks for swinging by. So I want to start with the name. Why KarmaJack? Is karma jacking a thing? Are you trying to jack karma? Where's the name KarmaJack come from? Tell us about that.
We karma jack all over the place. No, we KarmaJack actually was founded from this idea of blending my children and my wife's names together. So it's Kara, Madeline, and Jacqueline. And my wife was like, "Hey, if you're going to start a business, you need to come up with a good name." So I was like, "Okay, well, let's go to Starbucks and let's hang out for a half hour." So I gave myself a half hour to come up with the name of the company. And I wrote down probably a couple hundred different names and variations. And I continued to find myself in a space where all of my focus was on, Kara and Jacqueline, or, some sort of a blend between all of them. And I realized a lot of the reason why I started the company was to focus back on my family and to be present and to be more human, less travel, less corporate suit guy, and more family oriented. Yeah. So it's actually how I came up with the name.
There you go. Love it.
Thanks.
Love it. So take us through that, because that's always an interesting aspect, is why we start businesses, and particularly why we start agencies. So you were corporate before this, you said you were corporate, jet setting, away from the family, and were you in agency, or were you a corporate agency, or something?
No, I had nothing to do with marketing whatsoever. No agency, nothing like that. Yeah. So I started with a company called Entertainment Promotions. And they are it's a huge discounts and promotions company. It's where I got the beginning parts, and then grew up within that space. I was there for about 12, 13 years, and then started to branch off. I did some consulting, and then got hired on to do an online fundraising platform, which is kind of like the space that I was in prior to leaving entertainment. So that went really well. I learned SEO, and I learned all these digital marketing components. I think before digital marketing was actually a thing. And then that company kind of assumed by a travel agency. And so I applied the same type of techniques and methods there, along with running these businesses. So as a travel agency, we're wine and dine by big hotels like Marriott and Hilton, and you wore a suit and you did all those things, traveled all over the country. And I saw my family was just kind of slowly breaking apart because I was focusing a lot of time and energy on the work, not so much in the family. So I said, you know what, I need to take a mini retirement. My wife let me. It was her idea. Well, I don't think she would admit that, but
it was encouraged more than allowed.
Yeah. It was like one of those days where I'm like, okay, I can see what's going on here, and I can do better than what I've got going on now. So she's like, well, why don't you retire until the kids are done with high school? And I said, okay. I don't think she expected that response. So about a month later, I threw in the resignation and, gave a month to make sure everything at the organization was running smooth. And then I walked out and started consulting with digital marketing. And then that turned into a few clients. And then, we've got over 70 clients at this point.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So you really were essentially sort of self-taught in the marketing side of things?
Yeah. So I was really big into business development within my career. And I think what happened was I saw this enormous opportunity within the digital marketing space in the early 2000s, and then, early 2010s and stuff like that. So there's just a huge opening there. And because my mindset has always been, how do you grow? How do you build a business? How do you get more clients? How do you sell more stuff? It was just more of like a natural fall in than any type of, Certainly self-taught. I like Neil Patel. He's been a great teacher, but it's
a good resource.
one of hundreds at this point. And then I would say the biggest thing is I've surrounded myself with people who are true experts, and I get to learn a lot from them. And then we really kind of toe the line on how to always do better, which is a lot of fun.
Awesome. And would you classify yourself as sort of full service?
Yeah.
Digital. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you focus on everything from those through what sort of your bookends. And so where do you start and finish in terms of your service? Are you sort of on the strategy all the way through various execution? Are you more on the execution side only? How do you see that?
Yeah, so we tend to do a lot of strategy built within our execution. So we're an execution organization. We'll do some consulting with businesses. Usually that turns into some sort of business, but we'll build the strategy and then we execute on the strategy. And I think that's super critical. If you have a plan for any type of business, any industry, and it's a well thought out plan, and you've got tactics that work, you put all that together, and once you execute on that, you can see a lot of success. And I don't think the space that we're in, although it appears to be very confusing to a lot of people who are outside of our industry, I don't think digital marketing is actually all that complex. You have some key components that you need to do. Every business pretty much needs to do it. And then you've got these auxiliary things that, depending on the type of company or the industry or the product, maybe you want to throw in some additional services on top of it. But most of what we do ends up being website development, some SEO, social media ads, Google ads, and then you've got some auxiliary things like email marketing, text messaging, and you just go on with those smaller services as things progress. Typically, what we find is most business owners are looking for this huge opportunity to grow. And the biggest swing, I guess, to get that growth is to hammer on hyper-focused advertising that gets you new customers. And then what do you do with those new customers afterwards? So as time progresses, we find ourselves consulting with our clients, teaching them almost like, hey, now this is how you handle sales once you get all these leads that come in, or hey, e-commerce company, you just got all these new customers and this new business. What are you going to do with all of these customers now that you have them? You spent this money to acquire them. What do you do once you have them? And so we just continue to work with them on the regular as time progresses.
Yeah, so you're really supporting them on that full marketing spectrum, like that marketing, that marketing overview, right? That sort of strategy consulting. Because some agencies can specialize, and they're like, "Here's your leads, off you go." Not good luck, but that's where we end. Like, here's the leads we've generated for them. You guys go close them, and they can find a lot of fall off, right? The clients can not follow up properly, or not have this massive influx of business, like you said, or build out an e-com store and suddenly have all this traffic and customers, but they're not capitalize on it. I think that's a really interesting aspect that you're following that journey through and going, right, now that we've generated all this business, now what do you do with it? Do you find it surprising that companies don't have that already sort of baked into how they operate, or is it just because operators they do what they do and they just don't understand marketing and digital marketing and the fundamentals?
Some companies will have great processes, but they're not following up on their processes. I've got the best sales team in the world. How dare you question them? Going to be things like that. And then when you lay over the data and you show like, hey, did you call Bob Smith from this hospital? And let's say this is, a medical supply company that we work with. And then they find out the salesperson actually calls 15 days later after the lead came in. The commentary tends to be, what do you think happened to that person between the day that they filled out the form on your website and the day that they signed up with some other company, right? 15 days is a long time. So you'll hear feedback from maybe the sales team and they say, well, these leads are bad. And so you have to teach clients how to inspect the leads, because we've found if we don't teach them that, right? So we don't charge extra for it. It's part of our services. We want what's best for our clients. We want to help them grow. We want to make a difference in their lives. in the lives of those that they support. So in order to do that, you really need to follow good methodologies within sales processes. A lot of times people just don't even get that. And that does blow my mind. You spend good money to get good leads. What are you doing once those leads happen? We just have a recent client that is a doctor, and he's like, I'm just not getting any new business. Like, you just got 100 leads last month and they look really good within a 4-mile radius of your building and blah, blah, blah. And it turns out his staff just wasn't following up on any of them, which, it's hard to peel away those layers. But then once you do that and they understand what's actually happening, it makes them stronger as an organization. And on the flip side, it helps our organization stay in check to make sure that we really are doing a great job. So we tend to monitor a lot the leads, especially if it's like a service-based company. We monitor those leads very closely, and we spend a lot of extra time and energy teaching our clients how to take those leads and turn that into business. When you do that, now they're better, they're stronger, and then you have a client for life, ideally, as long as you don't screw it up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really interesting. I'm always fascinated by how often does marketing fundamentals come back into fashion or come back into play for sustainable business. You see a lot of operators that do specialize, and they'll go and they'll generate the leads, and they'll just go, here's your leads. Off you go. I'm a Facebook specialist, so I'm just going to sell you Facebook ads. But they don't really understand that full 40,000 foot view of marketing and how everything really can or should integrate. A guy that's doing the rounds a lot at the moment on a lot of shows is Alex Hormozy, who's got a massive book out at the moment, $100 million offers, big consulting company, works with $3 to $5 million companies. But he tells an interesting story about an agency that they had as a client, and they were generating leads for real estate companies. So similar sort of thing, generating the leads, handing them over. And this client kept complaining that they were crappy leads and they couldn't close them. And this sort of kept going. So Hormozy, Alex recommended, he said, look, why don't you, to the agency, why don't you go get your real estate license and start closing these deals, like start closing these customers yourself so you can learn the process. The guy did that, closed $20 million worth of real estate deals. And then because of that, because he had that tangible experience, then he could qualify and then essentially coach the client in, here's the lead, this is how you close this type of lead. So it's an interesting story, sort of going back. When you're talking through your process, it sort of reminded me of that story, that having that capability to go, here's not just a lead, but here's how you now market and sell and close and add that sales component to these leads. Sort of another really interesting and critical part of being an agency owner, right? Your job doesn't necessarily just end with the leads. If you can then actually help your clients, if you genuinely, as you were saying, genuinely care about their business, like, I'm giving you leads, what's going wrong, where's it falling, and being able to step in and really be that assistant to go, right, let's help you close this business. So yeah, I really appreciate that.
Thanks.
That capability to step in and have that sort of consulting, that strategic view on genuinely helping customers, right? And you talked about being more human up front. And is this sort of is that something that you kind of carry through your value system? Obviously, your family was a big why you started the agency, right? Is that something that drives you, of having genuine human connection and human concern for your clients, like actually wanting them to win?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. I have it's a huge strength of mine that I care like a very high level with every client that we have. So then, what's interesting though, is with every strength, there's a shadow. So then sometimes it's like, do I care more than the business owner themselves on how their business is progressing? And unfortunately, sometimes I think that's true. So then I'm like, I have to almost like pull myself back a notch emotionally, because it's like, look, this isn't your business. So you're going to show them the path, help them along the path, be their guide. And then what they do with it is really, it's their decision on how they manage their business. So I learned that lesson early on when I started, And truly what's helped is we have a really great staff, and we have account managers, and then, Google ad buyers or social ad buyers, et cetera. Everybody has their role of specialty that they do. So that's peeled away a lot of layers for me personally as I guess the leader of our organization. So I can create these paths or help strategically, and then make sure that the things are done correctly, but then watch it go. So it kind of separates me a little bit emotionally from especially the beginning days. But yeah, I would say it's for sure in my core. We have a culture of care within our organization. We want to do well. The people that we bring on board are servants' heart. They want to please. They want to make sure that things are done the right way, and it's not really money focused. It's more about like, how do we help these organizations thrive? And when you have that type of mindset, the money always follows. It always has. So you focus less on the money. You focus more on the quality and how do you make a difference. We'll strip away some of our services if we feel like it just doesn't make sense for whatever industry or things. And that'll blow people's mind. Like, hey, I don't think you should do this anymore. Like, what? Pay you less? Yeah, you should pay us less, because this is where all your money is actually being made. So let's invest more here, and let's grow this sucker.
Yeah, it's a good karma, right? To come back to the
yeah. Thanks.
Very good. When you genuinely care and you genuinely want to help people, it sets a very different tone in your business. And again, I love that. Very often as agency owners, particularly when we're starting out, we always are fairly emotionally involved, but we say yes a lot, and we can often say yes too much, and that causes as much problem as benefit, right? We can just onboard clients because like, yes, I need the work. Yes, I need the work. Yes, I'll do it. Yeah. We can end up over-servicing. We can end up just burning ourselves out, burning our team out, bringing in shitty clients that we don't actually enjoy working with because we're chasing the dollars, right? We want to fill the pipeline and get work in. But take me through that kind of emotional shift and that maturity over your journey, where now you have that capability and that confidence to actually say no more often, right? Because for me, that's a massive piece is being able to have a hard yes and a hard no inside your business, and be able to say, in this situation with this client, with this project, it's either hard yes or hard no, and here's why. And having that maturity and emotional intelligence really to make that call, to talk the client through that. Take us through some of that journey, because that's obviously been a few years for you. Yeah. And you've been able to make that shift, as well as sort of moving yourself up in the business and out of some of the dirtier work, I guess, into the more strategic. Take us through that sort of emotional shift that you've felt over that last few years.
Yeah, in the beginning, you do kind of work with anybody and everybody. And I think you need to sort out what your identity is. And when you figure out what your identity is as an organization, then you can start making better decisions. Our company is a growth-focused business. We apply the tactics that make sense within a strategy to help a business grow. Maybe it's social ads, maybe it's not. It just depends on what their needs are, where their customers are, and how can we connect in the most efficient way for that client. And that was a big fundamental shift for me. In the beginning, it was some consulting, but I think I called it consulting because I didn't really know what I was doing. So it's like just doing everything. And then as time progressed, I said, oh, wow, holy cow, are you kidding me? So you can target these types of people in this niche group of people and get them to fill out a thing to bring revenue into this company. This was blow my mind. And we started to be able to do those things. But what happens is, if you have a client, we call them snake oil clients. They're the products. They're trying to break all the rules. It's trying to, products that aren't approved by whatever government entity, FDA approved government entities, things like that. Yeah. And those are very difficult. So these are business owners are trying to get their business off the ground or to grow to the next level. And then they want professionals to come in and do it. But if you have to go through and break a bunch of rules in order to make them make a couple bucks only to know that you're eventually going to get caught ends up being pretty toxic. So we learned a couple lessons like that in the beginning or in the middle, I would say, where we had to say, okay, we can't work with snake oil companies. So we just follow those guidelines that Google or Facebook puts out there. Like, if it's not approved by the government, I'm sorry, we just can't work with you. And sometimes it's hard to turn that business down because you can see they care. They don't know that maybe it's an issue. It's not necessarily their fault, but they've got this great thing and they want to sell it. And when you have to turn that down, it's kind of like breaking up with somebody before you ever dated. It's the most bizarre thing. Yeah. And you just have to stay strong in your convictions. Say, we have learned from our experiences that, unfortunately, products like yours don't go through whatever advertising mechanisms that you want us to work on. And so, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to work with you, but we wish you the best. Maybe you should try looking at these other avenues, and we'll try to give them the best advice for what they need to do.
Yeah, it really comes back to like organizational self-awareness or individual self-awareness from yourself as the owner, to have that, to understand that and be willing to have that conversation, not just sort of chase the money, but also know, like, this is who we want to work with, this is who we don't want to work with. And that does take time. When we're starting out as agency owners, we just try it. We want to try everything, right? Because a lot of the time we might go, right, I think I'm really great at SEO, but then I might get into it and I find out I'm amazing at Facebook ads or building websites or e-com, right? Unless you try that out, you may not know. So I think it is important to go out and try a bunch of stuff with that view of genuine care, not just kind of going out and selling shit to see what sticks. It's a bit of that, but it's also coming from a place of, like, I'm good at this thing and I want to see if there's a market for it, more than I want to get someone's money and see if I can sell them on this thing. So I think it's that coming from that place of care is important at that stage. Try a bunch of stuff, and then eventually, sort of as you're saying, over your journey, you go, actually, this profile of person, this type of client doesn't gel with me. That's just me. Someone else can work with them and help them out. That's great. But for me, I like this, I don't like that. But it sounds quite simple, but a lot of us don't do that, right? A lot of agency owners don't get to that point of self-awareness to actually sit back and go, actually, what client do I want? What do I like? Who do I want to serve? And go through that process, let alone, as you're saying, sort of upfront, coming back to that why. Like, why do I want this agency? What is this business for? What's the purpose? What's the ambition? Did you sort of officially go through that process of doing vision and mission statements? And did you do that up front, or is that something that's sort of just been an evolution?
Yeah, I went through that pretty early on in the beginning. Of course, it was just myself. My sister-in-law actually recommended a book called Traction by Gino Wickman. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
No, I don't know.
It's called the EOS system. I forget what it stands for, but it's a great thing to look into, especially for starting up your business, or if it's a small business, probably up to a mid-sized business. And I think that's where the sweet spot is. So it helps you get that set up. The mission, vision, values, all those things are a part of that. Now we practice this on a quarterly basis, and then we bring it all the way down into a weekly basis. So we have a scorecard meeting with key departments every single week with measurables to make sure that we're doing our job. Are there any clients that are in the red, meaning like we need to improve our own performance, or how are the clients in green, and so on. How many times are we communicating with our clients, et cetera. And then all of that goes into kind of like a big roll up. And then Hallie, who is our COO, and I have our weekly meetings on Tuesday, and we look at how's the overall company doing, from accounting to sales to client performance, and a few other indicators in there. So we take that and we hold it to heart. Our quarterly meetings are really big. We make sure that we stay in line with our overall mission, and it's been a fantastic way to operate the business. It helps me as the founder to relinquish certain controls because I can see the roll-ups with the dashboards, and that allows us to operate on a very solid foundation of making sure that people within their highly specified skill sets are doing their jobs well without having to micromanage anyone. And then our team tends to be very self-fulfilled with the type of quality of work that they do. They want to be proud of the work that they do. So they enjoy rolling up these, awesome success stories. And then we do lots of high fives, and it's just really, it's been a great journey.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, that cultural piece is so important. So what does that team look like for you now? Are you in an office? Are you fully remote? Are you global? What's that team look like? There's all sorts of different teams these days, and there has been in the past. What's that look like for you?
Yeah, well, we started remote, but so we're in the Karmajack headquarters. We're in downtown Detroit, and most everybody still works remote though. So most of our team is actually in the Detroit metro area. We have a few outliers, a couple people in Arizona and Colorado, Minnesota, but for the most part, the vast majority of our team is here locally. So we'll meet weekly. So we're kind of like a blend between do the office thing and do the remote thing. And I think people love it because they get to come in and they get to see everybody. You can collaborate. I got this space because I wanted people to be able to collaborate and enjoy each other's company and brainstorm and just be outside of what has very quickly turned into the stereotypical Zoom meetings and everything else. Yeah. It's been very exciting, actually.
Yeah, it's bizarre, isn't it, that is it's a strange thing to sit and see someone face to face and have an office and communicate in person with people. Obviously, I mean, Melbourne, we're still in pretty hardcore lockdown, so that's literally not possible for most agencies operating out here at the moment. But yeah, to have that space and have that one-on-one communication, that human connection again, super important for culture. And if you can have that hybrid version, it's a really interesting time in terms of that cultural piece and that how the people giving people the freedom to almost choose how they prefer to work. Where are they more productive? How are they more effective? Is that something that you also take into consideration of if someone's more productive working from home, that's more optimal than having them come into an office? Or do you prefer to have people in the space?
My career, in my early days, I ran there ended up being about a couple hundred employees. Most were work from home sales reps. So I was very familiar with the concept of people being able to work from home. It wasn't anything foreign to me, and understood you need to give some level of, you need like a daily template, if you will, some loose guidelines on things that should be done on the regular. But then at the end of the day, it's about the results. So as long as you're performing, then there's nothing ever to worry about. And how do we know if you're performing? Well, we have agreed upon, levels of success depending on whatever it is that you do. So that's been the biggest thing. We don't require anybody to come in and work. I've been in part of environments like that, and it's just the more you force somebody to do something they don't want to do, the quicker they are to leave. So allow them to do their job, empower them, make sure they're trained appropriately, make sure the expectations are held clearly, and then let them run.
Yeah, love it. Autonomy is a massive performance driver, massive optimization, just having that felt sense that even though I'm an employee, I'm a part of a business, I have a sense of control over my day-to-day and how I choose to work. That's massive for effectiveness and productivity and all that good stuff. So awesome that you got that baked into the DNA of how you operate. Joel, thank you so much for dropping by. We're just banging on the door of 30 minutes. I know we were going to try and run for 21 minutes, and we'll get to the reason why in a second. If people do want to find out more about you, where's sort of the best places for them to come and find you?
I think if you're an agency owner and you just kind of want to reach out and see how we do stuff, you could connect with me on LinkedIn. It's probably the best place to do it. And then Karmajack is the company. So karmajack.com. That's going to be if anybody is looking for some kick-ass digital marketing stuff.
Amazing. And I'll put this up your Calendly link. You have a wonderful 21-minute Zoom meeting, which I love. I love the specificity of that, and we talked about the reason behind that is effectiveness and productivity, right? In the digital world, in the Zoom world, you set an hour meeting, you're going to run an hour meeting. So why not set it at 21 minutes and just get shit done and move on with our lives?
Right.
Appreciate that time conservation. Very, very cool stuff. Thank you for dropping by, Joel. It's been really good to connect with you. Love what you're doing. Love the way that you're operating. Very, very cool stuff. Heaps of insights for the folks listening at home. So I appreciate you spending your evening with us here all the way from Detroit. Been awesome. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Thanks, Joel, for being here. I will share all of your links in the notes below so people can click on those, come and get connected with Joel and Karma Jack. Get Jack into the good karma of all the good stuff that Joel's doing over in his business. Thanks so much, mate. Great to have you on.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. See you on the next one. Cheers.